Are you an entrepreneur or ready to become a boss? Welcome to Hawaii Boss, the business podcast made in Hawaii, where you will hear from island movers and shakers on who they are and their impact on our state. And now, step into the office of your host for Hawaii Boss, David Pettijohn.
And we are live. Aloha, Hawaii Boss podcast crew listening in out there for another exciting week. This week we have a special guest coming into, and you've seen him before, Miguel González, the founder of Catalyst Public Relations and Marketing firm. We're excited that he's here with us to give us a COVID update. He's out there, again, grassroots guy, on the ground, on the street, working with folks throughout Hawaii, Kauai. I know you got folks on the Big Island. I know you're working all over the place. So you see what's going on. We're in the middle of this pandemic. We thought we were at the end of this pandemic, and now there's some different things going on. So we're excited to have Miguel here, and we want to welcome you out here. Miguel, aloha.
Aloha, David. Thank you so much for having me. What is it? I think it's the third time.
Yeah, it's the third time on, and you know, we're trying to work through all of this stuff. We thought, okay, pandemic. You know, we thought maybe this is going to be a short-lived podcast. We're going to talk about what's going on in the pandemic and get out of it. But now we're still in the middle of this podcast, and there's more dimensions coming every day to this thing, and more economic impact and things like that. And so, you know, first, I know you're out there and you've with your reporter background, I know you've got, you know, your ears out there listening in on things. So give us a feel for what's happening out in the world out there.
Right. Well, as you said, David, it's we all had an idea as to what this pandemic, or at least in our head, we had an idea that this pandemic was going to be done soon. Mm-hmm. But then the Delta variant came in and changed everything for everyone. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you might remember that the governor mentioned that at 70% of vaccination rate for the state, he would do away with all restrictions. Obviously, that's changed everything too, because it was extraordinary to see a month ago the governor going on a press conference and saying, do not come to Hawaii. We're not ready to take you. And I'm not criticizing the governor. He had to do what he had to do, but it's just hearing that, it just shows you the levels of and how worried these officials were about the Delta variant. And, you know, hearing Dr. Josh Green this morning in an interview, mm-hmm. said we were very, very close to having our entire health system collapse. And so it's a situation that they are looking to avoid again, as you've seen by now, the restrictions that we're under. Mm-hmm. And it's yesterday, the governor also mentioned in a press conference that should there be an uptick in more cases, he will not hesitate to impose more severe restrictions, because he does not want it to get to the point where we're averaging 1,000 cases a day. That was definitely a dire situation for our small island, and they're really trying to get away from this.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. There's this, we were worried when we had 10 or 15 or 20 cases, and then all of a sudden it was up to 1,000, it blew up. And so what are the real motivations? I'm saying nothing political or anything like that. When we say, you know, the lieutenant governor says that we almost collapsed our hospital system, what are some of the, trying to figure out what are some of the challenges there, what kind of pressure, I guess, all of these just hospital admissions all at once, and they don't have enough staff. What do you think is I think pressing some of that?
Right. It's part of that. Mm-hmm. I think it's also Hawaii has always been notorious for short staffing of people who nursing. I mean, I always hear about nursing, and they offer great programs for traveling nurses who will come and lend their services here. But it was a similar program that brought over 400 nurses to mm-hmm. help out during the pandemic. I mean, during the Delta variant mm-hmm. surge. And that actually, they credit that with helping to maintain the service. But that's exactly what it is. A lot of people, 90%, 85% of them unvaccinated, were going to the hospital with severe cases of the Delta variant of COVID. And this obviously made a situation that was already, think of a tunnel. You know, you and I can fit in the tunnel fine. But mm-hmm. if there's 10 of us, then it's not going to be as easy of us to fit in that tunnel. So it's basically, that's what happened.
So there's a little bottleneck there. So all this COVID stuff happens, but then there's other needs that people have. They've got other elective surgeries and things that they're trying to get done. Physicians are trying to, you know, a lot of these surgeons didn't go to school to treat COVID. And so if they can't get into an operating suite in order to provide this surgery, and the person who needs this surgery, that's an economic exchange of sorts. It is.
Right.
And
There's
so
a
that
on everything. You're right.
And it begins to impact a lot of things. So take us back a little bit. There was this Delta variant, but there was a time when things felt like they were coming back a little bit. And so what was some of the guidance that, what were some of the field people were starting to make plans and they've readjusted and now we can move forward once we have this, but then, so what are some of the companies thinking now that, okay, we're ready to go, but then maybe not? What are they saying now to you?
I see it all across the board and in different islands. It's the not knowing, I think it's the hardest part for all these companies.
Mm-hmm.
The not being able to predict what the market will look like in 4 months. Forget about 4 months, 2 months, just anything that they can immediately plan for. So I hear from my clients all across the board and they're saying, we have all these grand plans to come back. We had all these ideas. We were going to launch a new product. We had a new offering, anything that my clients put together, it's all pretty much on hold. And it's because of the not knowing situation. And I think that's something that's accurate for also the mainland. It's so unpredictable that, and then I see there's other variants that are being introduced also in the communities. So it's like, it's going to be a situation where you're constantly going to be dealing with variants that might be resistant or more potent to affect the vaccination status of someone,
Sure.
Never mind also being vaccinated.
Right. It feels like it's not really like we're not, it's, you get the polio vaccine or the what you call smallpox. That's an old one. No, we don't really talk about. You get your vaccine and that's it, one and done, or it's 2-step a booster. And then you don't have to worry about it for 10 years, like a tetanus shot or something like that. But this one seems like it's almost like a flu where you're kind of, we're going to have to get like here's the variant this year that we're going to try and build a vaccine for. And then, maybe there's again, another booster coming out. It sounds like that's coming out so for Hawaii, there's the impact of, this, the stop, the reduction of the travel, but also the pressure on the small healthcare system that was already strained with staffing, physicians having a hard time finding physicians, having a hard time finding nurses. Then all of a sudden this influx. And so it's a big deal when your healthcare system collapses. And so it's important, but there's also some concerns from the business side, like, okay, well, the healthcare system, while it's a big part of our economy, it's not the only thing a part of the economy, the only thing. So what else can we do? But I heard that, the long time, Ironman triathlon that was always held in Kailua Kona every year in October.
Right.
Well, last year they didn't have it. And then this year they were going to have it. And then they moved it to February. Then all of a sudden there was a change in venue. What do you think is causing, where are they at now? Right.
So from what I hear, they're moving to St. George, Utah for the 1 year. And then they'll come back because this is the premier event for the Ironman. These are the world championships and people come from all over the world people have to qualify to get here.
Right.
So it's quite it made some news for sure because Ironman is so significant and so relatable to Hawaii. It's everybody, wishes when they're competing in local Ironmans, their whole goal is to get to Kona, right? That's the part of it. And
that's the Super Bowl of Ironman.
It really is.
Right.
And for it to be gone, I mean, it just tells you the dire straits that officials at Ironman had to go through or had faced for their brand. So they had to make a decision where they said, we got to keep the brand going and we got to figure out another place that will let us do that. And this is not the first time in a sports venue or facility that's done that. They are going and doing different things. I saw a lot of, even at the middle of the pandemic, I know some states were more liberal in allowing crowds of sizes. So it's just a very state by state. But
so for Hawaii, then what's our crowd requirement how do they manage crowds? What's our, because this causes some economic issues if they're large crowds. How are they combating it for Hawaii, or what's their recommendation if you want to be in a large crowd? What's the
right? Well, the recommendation has always been mask, and that's something that I also personally use. I mean, at all times, I'm fully vaccinated, but I have a child who is not. So it's a situation where I want to be responsible and I want to be responsible to my community as well. So I wear my mask all the time, but there is, just to touch back on what you were saying that I thought was really important, it's just the way that businesses are being affected, right? It's just whether it's lack of workforce, whether it's the unpredictability of this whole situation, or whether it's just the fact that you are facing consumers or customers who are unsure about big expenses they want to make,
Sure.
Those are the things that obviously keep businesses, especially smaller businesses, in limbo. And it accentuates the fact that we are in this pandemic that I don't know when it's going to end, because like you said, there's continuous variants that keep on doing that. So we're definitely going to keep on adjusting our boosters and vaccines,
right,
to combat that.
And so the other thing is they're doing it. They have this, basically it's a passport of sorts to get into a restaurant. You have to have, show your vaccine and your ID. And they also do contact tracing just in case it comes up. You still have to write your, they're getting digitally savvy about that. Oh, here, click this QR code and sign into your, your contact tracing. But, I just want to go down to Genki Sushi. I don't want to have, do the whole, report off my everything that I'm doing. It's kind of funny though, that this is how we live, because we want to find where this, to get this bad bug out of our lives.
Right. I see it though. I see that ultimately state officials have to impose something like this, because this is exactly what we were talking about. While a lot of local people blame the variant and the upsurge of the variant on the island on visitors, statistics show that most of those cases are coming in from the community spread. It's us pretty much forgetting or being too relaxed, going to all these events, forgetting about the mask, catching it, whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, right? And then from there, having community spread. So they felt these things were necessary. In restaurants were some of the top places where they were definitely registering those particular infections.
Right. And so them and schools and everybody are now, we talk about, their school, their son or daughter is impacted for a day. They were sent home with their school, their classmate was found to be impacted, and therefore you and the rest of you have to stay away from school for 2 weeks. And now the family members who are taking care of these now they have to stay away from work for 2 weeks, and then which exacerbates our already ongoing, instead of just healthcare, we're talking every industry, every profession right now is having a staffing crisis.
That's a great example, David. It's that domino effect.
Right.
That everybody tends to feel, and the example of the school that happened to me just recently. The school just went back up, but I mean, there was a case within the school, and out of precaution, they send everybody home for 7 days.
Right. The healthcare industry sort of did this last year, so everybody kind of gets the thing. But now all the schools and the rest of the public and community are going, oh, we have to track all of this, and what if, and how many days after they were, they have, symptoms. And so now we're all healthcare professionals, and really it's a big burden on, all of these different agencies. Hey, I just want to make tacos. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And that's what you see a lot. You see a lot of these folks who are small mom and pop businesses, even medium businesses, who say, guys, I'm hiring people, young folks, to help me as my waiters, buzzers, different things. They don't have the expertise, the knowledge, or even sometimes they don't have the finesse to sometimes help ask those people, especially those people who might get a little bit offended or just feel that they do not need to present this information to a stranger. That's what small business folks say. And you guys are making us pretty much your COVID cops, if you will. And this is a quote that I heard on TV.
Right.
But it's a situation where it's pressing a lot of people. It's adding to a job that it's already very complicated, because those folks work very, very hard. And it's just all of a sudden you're having them play detective as well, besides serving your food and making sure that everything else is in place.
Yeah, very, very difficult burden on everyone. But I guess that's how it works when we all work together to try and go for the same purpose and our goal.
Right. Right.
And so I think, when this pandemic first started, the federal government got involved and pushed a bunch of money out to companies because basically everything stopped.
Right.
And also unemployment was extended and different things happening. But all these things are we're putting a lid on some of this stuff so that which further exists. So possibly there's, as we've talked about it when we first met, this unemployment that extended out so long, why do I need to work if I've got a pretty good unemployment thing going on? And
right.
And so
sometimes more, right?
Yeah, it's a disincentive or a perverse incentive, we call it, where, hey, why work if I've got a pretty good gig? But now if that goes away, maybe I'm going to go look at as I was walking by the ABC store the other day, $17 entry level for a clerk or a barista or a little food prep.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just to start it. All the ABC stores, and you notice the ABC stores are all open now to full effect. They were closed for a good long time,
right,
as well. But now they're trying to open back up, and Waikiki staying pretty busy. But I think it's those folks that are still the impact of the slowdown is now, it feels like it's reaching out to the rest of the community, the small businesses. The PPE is no longer available, or the PPP money they called it, where they to help those businesses. So what now? I mean, how do we get creative now? What's a creative position for small businesses, big businesses to move forward in this sort of misty sort of space?
Right. I think it's important, and the Honolulu Chamber has been doing a great job at staying in communication with small businesses, getting them to have a voice, working with the mayor's office as well, because the mayor, as you know, is very pro-business, wants to make sure that he's as least restrictive as the pandemic will allow him to be. I think that's the way to describe it, because he's a business owner and he's always ran a private operation himself. So to be in government is a little bit different for him. But you're right. It's going to be the banding together, the working with I heard from a lot of small business owners that they had never had a presence in social media before the pandemic.
Okay.
Upon the pandemic starting, they had to resort to that. And a lot of them credit that move with helping them keep in contact with clients and customers. To be able to say, I'm having a new t-shirt design drop next week. Everybody can order here, because obviously nobody could go to a brick and mortar store or anything like that. So it's being smart. It's adapting. It's what I'm hearing too. It's adapting to the times and moving, because, just because you did it the same way for 20 years, it doesn't mean that it's going to work post pandemic.
Yeah.
So
any system in business, just ask Kmart,
Yes.
We have to adapt regardless of that's what business does, is it adapts within a certain environment. Like Walmart was able to sort of identify the managing the product themselves and owning the product themselves, instead of just being a go-between. They all of a sudden said, well, if I own all this stuff and I own all the means of transportation and all this stuff, I can cut the prices down and I can cut everybody out of the thing. And then here comes along Amazon, adopted, and sort of like, okay, now brick and mortar is no longer, I can get it right to you, tomorrow. Right. And then everybody starts picking up on this. And so there's a new economy that develops online of sorts. So Hawaii has that opportunity. I think this continue to, have that online presence and online accessibility, but we still have the same supply and demand challenges, and the cost. I don't know. I went to go get some basic sundry items at Long's Drugs, and we're talking $50 to $1 more for basic, deodorant, shampoo, these kind of things. So there's other impacts that start putting additional pressure on top of the fact that we don't have enough workers and things like that. Then the workers we have, we can't pay them enough to actually survive and live over here.
Right. Yeah, and that's inflation, my friend, and that's something that it's being felt all across the country, and I would say around the world, because you're right. It's these extended costs, this supply cut chains, different situations where it makes these companies have to spend more on the product that we're making. So they're passing that on to us, the customer, the person.
Yeah, they don't have any choice, but then, we're left with fewer and fewer choices of different things. So I guess it all balances out and things, but it balances out here in Hawaii at a little bit higher
It really
dollar amount.
Because we're in the middle of the Pacific. It's very costly to get things here.
Mm-hmm.
And if those things are already going to be more expensive than they were before, then again, I think 10 years ago when I moved to Hawaii and I paid $7 for a gallon of milk that I could have bought in California for less than $3, I was just like, I couldn't believe it. But that's just the reality of it. And it's the price of living in paradise, right? It's so I wouldn't exchange it for anything else, but it's just, your pocket does feel it, my friend.
Yeah, it's a certain strain, and that's why you have some folks that do work. They're working, extra shifts and some extra hours, but getting a hold of them is the challenge. And so a lot of places, again, Hawaii is also expensive to hire employees because there's a requirement for healthcare insurance at 20 hours and different things. So there's really a lot of pressure for businesses to succeed here is challenging. So what do you say for folks who are maybe trying to get their foot in the ground, on the ground here in Hawaii from outside of Hawaii, or folks who are trying to do business, continue to do business here? What guidance can provide?
I think, I came to Hawaii. I recently celebrated, like I said, 10 years of being here in Hawaii. And I remember that creating a network for me was just so important
mm-hmm.
to establish and to be able to do the business, to run the business in the same way that I was running it in California, that it was in California, which was 10 to 12 clients at any given time with all these prospects. And so thankfully, it took some time, a lot of networking, a lot of getting to know people, a lot of pro bono work also that helped me kind of just expose myself in front of people, maybe help with nonprofits. And
right.
Nonprofits would have a lot of board members who would sit at different important companies, and that exposure helped me out a lot too. So it's just being resourceful and really
mm-hmm.
using resources like the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, there are very high quality, high-ranked young professional groups as well. So I definitely took advantage of that, and I credit that with helping me establish myself, especially somebody who didn't know anybody really in the island. And
sure.
Just to come out and live here.
Well, again, Hawaii, all of your great connections over on the mainland don't really extend all the way to Hawaii, even though
right.
they like the idea of, hey, working and doing business in Hawaii. But the amount of time and concerted effort that it requires to develop those relationships, you can't do it on a monthly visit or every once in a while and really develop those relationships. And long-term sustainability, I propose for us as we try and work through this business issues, we're not going to be able to rely on necessarily mainland companies to be able to get what we need. And so potential options and opportunities for people who are, entrepreneurs and businesses is try to find those services that can be provided here at the best price and at the best, bringing those resources here so that it doesn't have to be shipped in from the mainland. Right. So that whenever whatever happens, we all have the resources here. We, as some of our guests have said, we hui together so that we can, exchange ideas, but also, exchange resources in the sharing sort of mode when push comes to shove. And so that's contrary to business concept, the idea of sharing, because again, the entity, the business, but here you really have to integrate fully, and you can't be sort of a standalone sort of thing. So that network, like you say, seems very, very important that way.
Right. And that's, there's different philosophies on business, right? But I mean, integrating here in Hawaii and working with other small businesses, for example, a videographer, a webmaster, a social media expert. I need all of those folks. I can help them. I can employ them because my clients have all those needs. And I'd rather do something like that and help create that kind of a network and help create that kind of industry here in Hawaii. Then
it's local economy.
Right, exactly. Because then from there, we know each other. We know exactly how we work. We know what's expected.
Mm-hmm.
We know the quality of work, the ethic, everything else that comes with it, that just puts products in a better place and ultimately keeps clients coming back from a business standpoint.
So pandemic or not, basically you're saying to kind of help us understand where we're at right now, pandemic or not, people need to develop their network of partnerships, connections, again, so that they can get their needs met at the lowest price. And if they're here, it's going to be lower than having to ship it in from somewhere. So developing that network of people that can provide the resources for you and whatever idea that you want to create, or as if you're already a business, to move forward with that. And so, what do you think? Have businesses, in your experience, through this pandemic, so some of the success stories maybe you've seen, and what they're telling you that they want to do?
There's a lot of plans for a great comeback, right? Everybody's looking forward to those days when we can hopefully, I don't know if we can all let our hair down, but I mean, be in a better situation where we're not worried about catching something.
Right.
And I have clients who have all these grand plans and launches and new exciting product that Hawaii has never seen.
Right.
It's just pretty much on hold right now. But
right.
I feel, to answer your question directly, I feel that once we get to that point, it's going to be more of you'll see that business booming. You'll see those visitor numbers strong. You'll see also local companies benefiting from that and that job creation. You'll see that as well, because then everything works into the local economy, right? I had a really good month at work. Okay, great. I'm going to maybe invest in this particular project that's going to help hire a painter who is going to help, who's going to hire some of his friends who are going to have more money at the end of the month because they worked extra on an extra project. So it ripples down, and it's just a situation where we're hoping that we can do that, because I know of hotels that are just waiting to launch these great programs. I know of a wonderful chocolate maker who's about to make a splash in the market. So there's just things here that I can't wait to share with you guys.
Well, we're excited. I'm glad, again, you've come to visit with us and provide some of that color to what's happening out there. We all wish this would go away right now so we get back to business as normal. But I think this has really challenged us as business leaders. I think all of us out there can recognize it. And also the folks that work at these businesses has challenged all of us to, as far as our vocation and our work and things, to probably new levels where we haven't had to experience before. And I think what do they say? If it doesn't kill me, it makes me stronger.
Stronger, right? I agree with you. It's exactly that. It's and I feel like, to your point, I do feel as a more astute business person. I'm nowhere near some of the level of your guests, but I do feel that I've improved my business sense because I had to. The pandemic gave us no choice.
You couldn't do things status quo and keep on trucking and expect the same results because everything's different now.
I couldn't go to a mixer at the Chamber of Commerce where I would usually see my clients and meet new ones. I couldn't do any of that. So it was a situation where we definitely had to move to other platforms and avenues such as Zoom, which has been a great tool for me. But yeah, it's adapting, it's moving forward, and it's keep on improving as what you're doing, because then that puts you in a situation where, as a consultant, I want to be the last consultant to ever be considered to be on the chopping block.
Sure.
Because I want to be able to say, let me keep this guy because I know I'm going to need him. I'm going to need his connections. I'm going to need X, Y, and Z.
Right. And that's the kind of relationships you need out here. And so we're excited that you're able to come on again and tell us what's going on. But, before we go, we always like to find out a little bit more about folks. And I know a little bit about you because, you've been on a couple of times. And so, I understand that you're, there's this thing called Brazilian JiuJitsu out there. And I heard that you're, a 6-year novice, I think is that what they call it? You're just, everybody's new until they're not new anymore. But, it's a long process to kind of tell us about your journey with JiuJitsu as your hobby, how you kind of, and how that impacts, you and your work and different things. How does that, fold into your life?
Sure. I mean, jiu-jitsu almost happened by accident for me. I started jiu-jitsu in late 2016, signed up at a local gym. And the reason why I wanted to do it was because at that time, my 3-year-old, I wanted him to have some sort of a martial art. And I had been exposed to jiu-jitsu before. Took jiu-jitsu in California for about 6 months. And I really liked the ethic and the structure that it provided.
Sure.
But my dilemma was, how can I expect my 3-year-old to go through this and me being on the sidelines and just say, you should do this, you should do these things.
Right.
But if I don't experience it, how do I have a foot to stand on?
Right.
So I decided to join jiu-jitsu as well and started doing the adult class. And, one thing turned into another. I participated I was invited to participate at Worlds in the World's Cup of Jiu-Jitsu in Las Vegas when I was a blue belt. This was in 2019, right before the pandemic. And this year I'm going back in November 10th through the 13th in Las Vegas for World, and I'm going to be participating this year as a purple belt.
Yeah.
So it's white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt.
Yeah, in Taekwondo you can get that in a year, but here, say nothing against Taekwondo, guys. Okay, but anyway.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, again, no disrespect to any other martial arts. I'm sure they're great for the people that are taking them. But jiu-jitsu, the reason why I took it, I decided I'm continuing with my journey in jiu-jitsu. It's because it's hard, not because it's easy. It's it's so much more like life. Life has the ups, the downs. One day you'll have a great session at the studio. One day you'll just make these silly mistakes that will question your character. Will you make you question yourself and your character?
Right.
So it's coming back, taking things inside, digesting, coming back, applying new techniques, working on something, and moving forward, knowing that that it's always going to get better. As bad as it gets, it's going to get better. So I've been able to use that a lot in business, and I think that really made me tough mentally to really get to a point where I said, this is exactly what my clients need. So they need somebody at this level, and I need to get to that level.
Right.
And knowing that I don't know everything, I think it's important too, that I can always learn from everybody else, and that I can't do everything myself. It's also very important. But it's brought a lot of structure, and I'm so grateful to have it in my life. And my son still does it. He's going to compete as well. So very excited for what's coming up, and just grateful.
So is that the same philosophy on golf? Trying to get your golf game up so you can help your son develop?
Yes, exactly. And we're doing golf together too. That's what it is, So every Monday morning I'm out there stinking it up in the fairway, but I'm trying, man, and I'm getting better, and I appreciate that. I don't like getting up so early in the morning at 4:30 in the morning to go play golf when I'm sometimes tired from the weekend doing or just working. But I know that there's something behind that, and I honestly see golf as the game that I'm going to be playing with when I'm older, and my kid, my kid can play everything, So it's a situation where I see us just spend some quality time there.
Yeah, golf is a lifetime game. I need to pick that back up. But again, kudos to you for all your work and sort of taking your hobby and sort of your physical expression, and then kind of creating this sort of it's a mental game, because again, sometimes you're getting choked out. Someone's trying to stop you from moving. They're trying to move your arm in an uncomfortable way and make you stop and tap out and to say give. But and that's this pandemic is kind of doing that to us. They want us to tap out and to give up. But jiu-jitsu, there's pathways out of certain situations that maybe you didn't see before, but that over time, through your experience and through perseverance and a little help from some other people, probably. Right. Hey, here's how you escape out of that one, or here's how you escape out of that one. So little rules of the thing. And I think that's what Hawaii Boss here, what we're trying to do is hopefully give some folks some escape, some ways that they can get out of this tricky time and have some success in their business. So
definitely. That's exactly what it is, David. It's creating that flow, right? In jiu-jitsu, that's exactly what we say. If I can just get my flow going, because it's from there, it's kind of like, it's almost natural moves, and you're thinking about it and you're processing things, and you're seeing your ideas come to realization, and it makes you understand that you are made for more.
Right.
You have the capabilities of doing things, and sometimes as business owners, we'll get down. We'll all have our days sometimes, and we'll say, is this good enough? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? But it's just understanding that you got to keep on going. You got to keep on going and improving.
That's right. And it's just like, piano practice or whatever. If you skip the practice when the show's on, you're not gonna make it. So yeah, it's those quiet times when you're alone and you could either practice your trade and do your work or the other thing and find something else to do. But this is where the difference is. So again, Miguel, thanks for your example in both business and in life. And we're excited that, again, we're able to come on and visit. We want to hear more as things progress, and hopefully they'll progress very soon. Until then, Miguel, any parting words?
Like I said, I think it's just important that everybody stay positive. Thank you for providing this outlet for people. And I think it's a great way for people to really study others, figure out what they like about them. So I commend you for having something like this that is a necessary tool for the community, for our business community.
Yeah, we need to know who's out there, because there's no one else magic, like I said, coming over from the mainland to save us. This is us, and there might be some folk. We want to welcome people in that are good and great and that can add to things. And so we're excited about the future of Hawaii and the future of business, and look forward to seeing you again real soon, Miguel. Until next time. Yeah, until next time, aloha and mahalo.
Aloha.
Make sure to subscribe to Hawaii Boss and follow us on social media at Hawaii Boss Podcast at the links in the description. We'll see you soon in the boss's office.